Hi, and welcome to Echoes from the Bog. In this episode, we travel to Finland's southwest Archipelago National Park, a landscape of windswept islands, quiet bays, and layered histories of coexistence between people, animals, and land. Here we met with Ville Laitinen, a member of Luontoliitto, the Finnish Nature Association. The organization is over 80 years old and continues to bring together thousands of young people across Finland who are taking action for climate and biodiversity, both locally and internationally. We talk about what it means to restore nature in a place where so much has changed. People moved from cities to the countryside, spiking up conversations on the different perspectives on relation to land. Our conversation moves through the practical and the poetic sides of restoration. From rewetting drained peatlands to the stories, relationships, and cultural meanings that shape how people see these landscapes. Together, we explore how perceptions of peatlands have shifted in Finland. Once seen as harsh, isolated, or simply as resources for forestry, they are now increasingly recognized as living ecosystems, as carbon stores, habitats for rare species, and a place full of folklore and quiet mystery. Who decides what restoration means? Can nature be restored for any purpose, even military defense? Or does that distort its meaning? How do you make transitions just so that those who once drained the peatlands can also be part of bringing them back? And how can we work across differences between activists, hunters, entrepreneurs, and local communities without becoming polarized? Amid all this, one thread keeps returning: the power of young people coming together through hands-on action. We talk about the restoration camps organized across Finland, learning through experience. For many, these camps are not just about restoration, but also about finding belonging and relief from climate anxiety. As our conversation unfolds, we're reminded that nature restoration is not only about reviving ecosystems, but also about rebuilding relationships between generations, between urban and rural life, and between people and place. Could you start by introducing yourself and saying where we are and how did you get into nature restoration?
Okay. Yes, so my name is Ville Laitinen. I'm living here in Taalintehdas, in the Chimito Island in the southwest archipelago in Finland. And I'm working currently for Luontoliitto, which is the Finnish Nature Association for kids and youths. I'm responsible for our Baltic Sea actions and also our climate action. And we have the youth groups for both the nationwide and the local ones in different cities. And we also do some international cooperation with other youth organizations or environmental organizations.
I heard that Luonto means nature and Liito means...
Like a union, actually.
I see.
It's more like association.
Oh, okay.
Organization, yeah. But it's union, actually.
And you didn't start this, or did you?
No,
Okay.
It's like 83 years old organization. Yeah, it's a really traditional one, and we are a nationwide organization, and we have 7,000 members, mostly kids and youths.
Okay.
And we have these local, regional organizations, which actually form the union. That's why it's called union, because it's a combination of these regional organizations.
Makes sense. And then the peatlands are not the main focus, or
no,
are they?
No, they're mainly like part of the climate group, mainly because of the carbon sinks and storages that they have and what the peatlands creates. And that's why maybe I personally, I've been taking them as a part of our actions in the climate action group. I've been doing these restoration works already since 2006, mostly here in the Archipelago Sea, where we are at the moment. Here in the national park, we have the most rich nature and biodiversity. Most of it are somehow connected with human and animals, like the sheep and cows and horses that takes care of the nature or the biotopes. And that's why we have a lot of endangered species here. But in the decades, mostly in the last 60 years, the archipelago the people have moved to the cities, and also the traditional lifestyle has vanished. So that's why the animals, of course, have moved away as well. And most of this nature has become endangered, and the species that lives in those ecosystems.
And is that why you chose to focus on restoring peatlands? Like the disappearing biodiversity, or?
In a peatlands, of course, the focus is on both the biodiversity loss and also the climate issue, the carbon sinks. Mostly in these, like the heritage biotopes, we focus more on the biodiversity loss.
But I was wondering how you started to care, or like how you found out about this. Why did you choose to work
the
with
restoration?
them? Yeah.
Personally, it was from my studies.
Okay.
I used to study here in Turku, or close by Turku city, and we had a lot of this different kind of like a nature, what do you call it? Nature management activities, and one part of them was this restoration works in the archipelago. But I think they've done it already from the beginning of 90s in Finland. And mainly it started from these cultural biotopes, I think it's called in English, cultural biotopes. But it expanded really fast to the peatlands as well, because we have a lot of them. Yeah. And we ruined a lot of them with digging the ditches. Yeah. So to try the peatlands to make them grow more forest.
Okay, so this brings me to my next question of how do Finnish people perceive peatlands in general?
There are, maybe you could categorize it in a two different category, like one which you can do by hand and the other that you do with the machines, like big machines. So basically you just fill the ditches again or make a dams with this huge, what is it called? The
excavator.
The excavator, yes.
Okay.
Yeah. That's how you can make it like huge areas.
And then plant forests.
No, if you restore.
Oh, to restore it.
Yeah. And the same, that's how it's originally done when you dry the peatlands.
But basically in society, people value their peatlands or not really? Because you make it sound like they would rather have more trees.
I think the peatlands have always been, what do you call it, like really isolated places where you don't really go, and then there are not so many people living just close by the peatlands because it's really harsh. You can't cultivate anything or anything. They are like traditionally somehow like a mystical places where you probably feel a bit of danger.
Do you have legends or folklore related to peatlands?
Yeah, a lot.
Can you tell us?
Yeah.
What?
Maybe I don't know, it's the famous one, but it's like the flames that comes or lives in, which actually exists when there is a methane in the peatlands. Sometimes it can like not explode, but when they can create these visions of flaming. And that's the one that has been called Kiirastuli, which is like the
flame ghosts?
Fairies, but like the evil ones, maybe more.
And what do they, like, if you meet one, like, what does it do to you?
That's, I don't know, I think they're just being like something that you don't want to meet.
Ah.
Yeah,
okay.
But there are a lot of them, but I'm not so familiar with this.
Okay.
Yeah.
Recently we were in Ireland, and we also talked to them a lot about how peatlands are perceived in society, and basically the general idea that we got is that the older generations really associate peatlands with work, and they were sent to the bog to cut turf and bring it back home for fuel, and it was really like not punishment but something you had to do. And then now that they stopped, like they phased out the turf cutting a lot, the kids really view the bogs more as like a nice, beautiful place with a lot of biodiversity. It's something that needs to be protected. So is it similar in Finland that the younger generation maybe sees peatlands as something valuable and nice?
Yeah, at least I would say so, and at least in the urban kids and youths would see it that way. But still in the countryside, it's more like a resource.
Okay.
For a peat in Finland, we've done really good job. We as environmentalists and the environmental movement and the organizations of getting the environmental education for the whole society that peat is actually worse than coal when you burn it for energy. And that's the discussion has been going on for maybe 20-30 years now. But since maybe 5 years ago or even 10 years ago, the paradigm started to change. More like the common or the public opinion is turned more as okay, it's not wise to burn peat. There are more values in the peatlands, and of course CO2 emissions that comes with burning peat, and also from the soil or the peat. When you take the first cover off, it starts to
emit the
raise.
carbon.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I would say that it has turned now more, that we can see the more values now in the lands that we have in nature. How do you call it? Original nature condition.
Like untouched.
Untouched.
Yeah. Okay. Because you work with restoration, obviously, and then we were talking to Kanu, your friend, colleague.
Well, he knows a lot.
Yeah, he knows a lot. He took us on an excursion. So we worked with the forest. Without him, we would be lost. But it was very nice. But we had this interesting conversation about whether you can restore anything regardless of the costs or like the narratives it can be. Then we had two examples. One, he told us there's this rhetoric of hunters who think it's good to restore nature because then there's going to be more wildlife and then they can hunt the wildlife. So then it's good to restore because, again, the biome will be better, obviously, for everyone, but then this is like the price you have to pay. Yeah, we can talk about this first. Do you agree with that? Do you think that's okay?
I don't feel if that's the motivation for a restore to kill more animals.
Yeah.
So I don't see that's really. But if it motivates someone, well, okay. Yeah,
because it's always this issue of getting the public opinion on your side.
Yeah, but that must be more like here in the countryside,
okay.
And most of Finns lives in the cities actually, and most of the politicians and but locally, of course, it's a really good thing to think through and take all the stakeholders with you in the discussion of restoration. So I see it more if you just can take as many different opinions and point of views in account when restoring, then the better the result will be. For example, now when we've been doing this transition from the burning peat, the same entrepreneurs, they have these huge machines and a lot of loans that they have bought all the machines and everything. But they can use some of the big machines for the restoration. So we just have to make the transition in a justice way. So we can take them with us to make the transition for the nature.
That's a little bit what Hans Joosten, do you know who he is? Hans Joosten, he's like Dutch.
Oh, yeah.
So we also had an interview with him, and he was basically talking about how important it is to make people think that it's their idea to restore.
It is.
And he was saying how in his village in Greifswald, he was saying that the ground is sinking like a few centimeters every year, and they're crazy. Like, oh, crazy, no way. And he's like, go look and measure it yourself. And a year after, they're like, the ground is sinking. We need to do something about it. So
Yeah, you should never own the ideas. Give them yourselves, but share them and make them to think that it's their own.
Involve them,
But in many cases, it's when the local people, they know the local conditions and the ecosystems and everything. They know best. They know how it has been for like decades ago. Yeah. So they also have the knowledge and they also have the skills to do things better than just in a theoretical way that you can go and say that, okay, we should do this. This is how we do it. But most of the time we have like lack of knowledge for the local things.
Because you did restoration in the Archipelago, but how do you identify how this needs to be restored? And then how does this process look? Do you go to the government or do you talk to the people? Because a lot of people own the land, right, already? Yeah,
it depends. It depends. Now we have one project with this it's like a private nature conservation area. Mm-hmm. We work with them. So they have these like different islands and the water areas which are protected. and they want to restore some of them. So we work with them, and then we work with the government. It's like the administration called Metsähallitus who runs all the national parks in Finland. So we work with them, but also with the private landowners. So it depends a lot. But then we have these like regional centers for environment, like a state-owned regional centers for environmentalism. So they know the best all the areas where there's a potential and also need for restoration. So they are a really good source if you want to find a new places or expand your
they
activities.
have ideas.
Yeah, they do. Yeah, lots. A lot of them are like, yeah. And there's so big need for the volunteers.
Yeah.
Actually, because the state can't do anything, like everything. They can do some, and they have of course, now with the EU restoration law that they are now making the national program for the restoration and the plan. And it's done actually quite well in Finland, at least, that they really participate the different stakeholders and they invite you in these discussions and hearings. So it's done quite well, as this far at least. We'll see what's the outcome. But anyway, you can see that there are so many things to do there. So we already have this in Finland because we've done it a long time, restoration work, different ecosystems. Okay. And that's why we have like programs, these ready programs for different restorations on a different, like if you are working on a wetlands or a peatlands or cultural environments or whatsoever. So we have these ready programs, which some of them are more than 20 years old, like being active. So we already have these mechanisms in our society. But the problem is that the current government has got all the money, all the money from every program. And it's horrible.
And they
now.
don't give it back?
Maybe the next government.
Maybe I see.
So they are just like counting now that the EU restoration law is becoming like a ratified, yeah. Until 26 or 7. So they just count that it's not their problem anymore because there are going to be the new elections in 27. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I hope it works out.
but like still we have the mechanisms and the instruments for doing the restoration really systematically. But the problem is that we need a lot of volunteers.
Yeah, I was going to ask if it's hard to find them.
Yeah, we don't have so many like volunteers.
Okay.
And the resources, not a single organization in Finland has that much resources for restoration work as there is need for restoration. Yeah. So we just have to focus on the most important areas and the most important biotopes.
But do you have a stable group of people that help you or that you work with? Okay. How big is it?
Yeah, our youth group, which we have, it's under the climate group and partly under the Baltic Sea group. I'm responsible for both, and we've been doing it in Archipelago, so we can combine the Baltic Sea, and then in the peatlands, so we can implement the climate actions. So I would say we are now maybe 40 youth.
Okay.
And it's growing all the time. Every year we have more and more. Now we had 3 weeks ago, we had this Stop the biodiversity loss camp, like the environmental action camp. And we had 35 participants. The camp was full, we couldn't take more. Okay. And like now most of them became really active and they want to stay in the group and then they want to do more. This year we had 8 restoration camps all over Finland. Okay. And most of them had 7 to 15 youths participating. Okay. So, but like the core group, I would say it's about 40, but expanded group is more like, 80 even.
And when you say 100. Youth, is it only people that are younger than 30? Or
under Finnish youth law, it says that the youth are under 29 years old.
Okay. And then, but if older people want to restore, do you tell them no?
Say welcome.
Okay.
Yeah, of course. It's
All right.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
more important the interest than the age.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. Okay. And with restoration education, because sometimes we found that it's easier to say, oh, we need to restore because of the carbon, and then there's going to be less carbon in the atmosphere, and obviously people hear about carbon a lot, so then it like resonates with them. So do you think it's important to really tell them the whole truth because restoration is really complex and there's a lot of different components, or do you think it's maybe easier to just be like, oh, we need this because climate change, and like to send a message?
I would say that when marketing,
yeah,
it's good to say just the like the keywords
yeah,
and try to get interest, because there are so much of different kind of messages all the time. So when we get like the interest from the youth to join us, then we will explain like everything deeply, because it's so complex, and it's so interesting because it's complex, that it's so nice to show in a hands-on practical way that this is how you do it, and this is the impact and the outcome, but this is also the outcome, and it's so interesting, and you get a really nice discussions with youths when doing the restoration work. So that's the best part of it. So it's not a simple thing to do. It's really like complex.
You work a lot with, I assume, people also younger than us, and I feel like this new generation, younger than you, high school kids maybe.
Yeah.
Take a good moment to laugh at that. Yeah, I feel like this new generation coming up has been dealing with this complexity narrative quite a bit in several different sectors of life. How do you see that in this? Because they, like, are they more accepting of it than maybe the older people, the complexity? Are they frustrated? Do they take to it more easily? They're kids, so obviously I think it's like their capacity to learn is huge, but I also think I also wonder, are we overwhelming them quite a bit with all of this complexity? Because I think, especially this new generation, because of the access to the internet and the amount that we talk about climate issues, which are inherently so complicated, I feel like we're pushing a lot of complexity on them. And how do you see them respond to that?
While we are at the camps, it's the best they can have for the cure for this complexity and maybe the anxiety, what if they have, or any feelings they have, and they can express their feelings there. It's a safety place. Everyone's in the same situation. Everyone has gone through it or facing it for the first time. So that's really like the best place to deal with the feelings and emotions.
Climate anxiety support group.
It is, it is actually, and I really love the thing that it's so complex, because it's also, when you're facing it the first time, you may have feelings, emotions of frustration, but also I would say at least the most of them, I would like to say even everyone, in the end of the camp, they feel empowered of what they have done, because they see actually what they did, so hands-on work, and they see immediately what's been done. And we also have this projects that has been gone over years and are still like continuing every year annually. So we can say that we've seen the change already here, and you will see the change if you return here year after year. So that's like something that's the best we can offer for youths who have these feelings of anxiety, or I don't know what's the feeling, and I have this a lot of emotions inside me. So there's a place where you can express them.
Do you think it was similar when you were young, like a teenager? Did you also feel this anxiety? No,
we were just angry.
You were just angry.
For everything.
Okay.
Well, of course it depends what your background stuff like this, but maybe my background, it was more like I got involved in Antifa movement when I was like 14 years old, so I was really young, and I got deep of Antifa movement, and also it was close to the animal rights movement, which I didn't take part so much, but still it was. Yeah, and then it was more like this anti-globalization movement and everything, which sounds really funny nowadays. Like, why? But it was because of the big corporations that they took over every power in the world and everything. Yeah,
makes sense.
Yeah, like these huge demonstrations all over Europe.
You gave a very diplomatic response to the hunting for the restoration for hunting purposes, but there's another really interesting example coming up in the news now where they're thinking of restoring peatlands as an eastern defense against possible Russian invasion. I am curious how...
What?
Yeah, this is like a thing.
So Hans Jester was writing about this too, that if we restore the wetlands on the eastern border, it would be harder if there was a military attack.
I understand, yeah. I
And
understand
they
it completely, but I've
You'd not
never...
heard this.
Oh no, but in Ukraine there was a pilot example where they were like, oh, we're just going to re-wet this bog. And they re-wet something that had been farmed on and raised
So it brings us back to the question of, is it a justifiable way of restoring the peatlands? Because we were talking about it in RE-PEAT, and we were like, yeah, cool, like peatlands are restored, they're getting in the news, but on the other hand, like, again, we're viewing them through this utilitarian way, so they're only useful if they can defend us against an attack. Yeah,
how do you feel about promoting narratives like this? Like, what is your opinion?
It takes the focus on the wrong purposes. Everything. I'm totally against that. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just
that's crazy.
The defense budget is huge, though. So there's always this thing of they have all of the money.
No.
It would be so nice if we can have a little bit of that money.
I know. Yeah, it's true, but still.
Yeah,
I'm so fully against any borders.
Okay.
It's just making again us further steps away from each other.
Reproducing this narrative.
And how do you call it in English? Like this Russian phobic that we have already, which is like craziness.
I agree.
Because in that case, if the bogs and the peatlands are just restored in a purpose of military and defense, do they take account the biodiversity? Do they take account the carbon sinks and everything, or is it just made for what they used to have outside of the castles? You know, this. It feels more like that.
That's true. Okay, coming back to the conversation we had about youth and how different generations are scared of different things. What do you think is like the biggest challenge for the younger generation now that is on their minds, or that they're gonna have to overcome as they grow up?
Maybe this is related to this military and defense question as well, because it's. But what I feel it's more the whole societies in Europe, but global wise as well. It's making them more like polarized all the time. We just work with the ones who we get along with. Personally, I see that it will have a huge impact for youths, because they don't want to face anymore other opinions. They don't want to face the opponents, which is just worse for our societies. Because I believe the sustainable society will build on discussion and a conversation and an open-minded facing the challenges. But in this, what we are actually doing now, it's more like it's the bubbling thing that we stay in our own
polarized.
Okay. And that's related to the nature conservation, because the ones who are interested on that are just focusing on that, and they don't see the other. And for example, these hunters, they don't see the motivation in their point of view, and it becomes more and more difficult to have these discussions, to have these places where you can say safely your opinion and move forward together afterwards. You don't have to have the same opinions, but then you don't have to have the same goals, but what you can still do, you can still work together. You can still understand that, okay, that's not based on maybe my values. The values are more difficult actually. But we can still think it like more practically, or what's the word for?
Like a compromise.
We can compromise and we can find consensus out of these polemic issues. But if we don't face each other anymore and face in person, it becomes
impossible.
Yeah. So that will become like maybe the next thing that will create more anxiety in youths.
Yeah.
Because it's just so hard to face any other opinions. And actually, when we moved here to this small village 13 years ago from Helsinki, it was a huge eye-opening. For wow, now I meet these different ages, from different backgrounds, languages, cultures, more often in my everyday life. And it felt so good. Okay, wow, now I can discuss this. Of course, the discussions were more like on a basic level in the beginning, but then you get it with some people. You went even deeper and deeper, and you had like really good conversations, which you couldn't have if you're just with the people who thinks the same already.
Yeah, because you trust each other maybe more, like you know each other a little better, so then it's easier.
Yeah. So that was really nice. Maybe the best thing while moving here. The nature like brought us here, but then the people got us stay here, and the whole atmosphere of the village, of course. Wow. So that was something really important. For example, in our camps, to youths that try to face the people who don't think the same way.
That's a great summary of nature protection. Like nature brings us together, but the community is what makes us stay.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, well,
Did I say that?
Yeah, you said that. That was yours. Thank you so much. That's the end of the interview.
Yeah.
I hope you enjoyed listening to this conversation, and don't hesitate to check out Luontoliitto's website if you want to find out more about the different restoration projects in Finland, and maybe even get involved as a volunteer. If you have your own story to tell, maybe you live near a peatland, work with wet landscapes, or simply feel drawn to these ecosystems, we'd love to hear from you. You can reach out to us on Instagram at @re-PEAT.earth or send us an email at info@re-peat.earth. We're always looking for new voices, perspectives, and stories to share. Until next time, thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you down in the bog.